My brothers and sisters, it was last week that the world witnessed yet another horrific attack. The people in Paris were attacked by yet another set of gunmen and suicide bombers. And our hearts go out to all of those who were killed and injured, and to all of those who lost loved ones in the aftermath of this attack. And brothers and sisters, now once again, as a community, as a nation, as an ummah, we are finding ourselves and our faith becoming a target of criticism and condemnation. Again, we find ourselves on the defensive and being pushed against the ropes, if you will. In this past week, many masajid across North America have been the target of assault and vandalism. On Monday, a masjid in Pflugerville, Texas was vandalized. Many copies of the Quran were torn apart and feces left all over them and around the masjid. In Ontario, Canada, a masjid was deliberately set on fire this past Sunday evening. In Florida, many masajid received threatening calls. On Sunday, a flight from Washington, D.C. to Boston was deplaned because two people were suspected to be shady. Two people of Middle Eastern descent. A sister in Toronto was beaten and robbed by two men while she was picking up her kids from school. And she was told to go back to her country. Another Muslim family in Orlando, Florida, their house was the victim of hate crime and shot many times. On Tuesday, 4 people on a Spirit Airlines flight were targets of the assumption of suspicious activity. They were taken off the plane and later on cleared. In Charlotte, North Carolina, a Uber driver who was asked about his religion and he said, "I am not a Muslim," was still stabbed and attacked, regardless of his claim. So again, my brothers and sisters, we find ourselves in that here we go again situation. Here we go again state of mind. Just when things started to calm down after Charlie Hebdo, literally boom, literally. The national media, the fox and hounds, if you will, the newspapers, social media, talk shows, politicians, all talking about how bad the teachings of Islam are and how dangerous Muslims are. How we should go back to where we came from. How Muslims in America want to, and throughout the world, want to implement Sharia law. How we are here to take the country over. How we are here to change the landscape of the United States of America. Now we find ourselves, and especially our sisters, worried for their safety and security. Looking over our shoulders. People giving us looks. And now the word is spreading. And people out of ignorance are thinking that somehow we sitting here are responsible for what was unleashed in France. Thinking that somehow we were responsible for that chaos. Thinking out of ignorance, out of jahala, that somehow Islam teaches, encourages, and endorses this type of chaos and terror. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly says in the Quran, من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. Whoever takes the life of one person unjustly, it is as that person killed all of humanity. وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. And if a person who saves a life, it is as he saved all of humanity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another verse, لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تولوهم وتقسطوا إليهم أن تبرهم وتقسطوا إليهم. Allah does not forbid you to deal justly and kindly and compassionately towards those people who are not actively fighting against you, who are not driving you out of your homes. Inna Allah yuhibbul muqsitin. Allah verily loves those who are just and equal. So instead of showing Islam for its values, for its morals, for its humanitarianism, instead of showing the peace, humility, and humbleness that is infused in every single act of worship that we do, whether it's our prayer, whether it's our charity, whether it's our pilgrimage, whether it's the testimony of faith, whether it's our fasting, instead of showing that, Islam is being ignorantly labeled as a religion of barbarians who have no regard, respect, or sanctity for human life. Islam is being pictured as a religion that has no concept or notion of coexistence, when clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell those people who for over a decade were fighting with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims, for over a decade were persecuting the Muslims and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. For you is your religion, and for me is mine. I am not going to worship what you worship, and you're not going to worship what I worship. Lakum dinukum waliyadin. The media has allowed people to judge a whole religion, based on the ideology and theology of a few misguided, unfortunate imbeciles. They magnified and allowed a few people to represent every single Muslim in the world. They have allowed ISIS or ISIL or whatever acronym you want to give them. They have allowed them to define and represent ISLAM, Islam. They want to make it seem like we as Muslims throughout the world are sympathizers for ISIS, when the fact of the matter, my brothers and sisters, the fact of the matter is that the biggest victim of ISIS are Muslims and not non-Muslims. 130 plus people were killed in Paris, but over 100,000 Muslims, many of them slaughtered by ISIS in the past 2 years. So who is the biggest victim? Last year on December 16th, 132 children fell victim to terrorism in Peshawar, Pakistan. You remember that, right? And what was their fault? What was their fault? The only fault there was is that they were going to school to learn Alif Bata or ABCs. How can we be held responsible for the act of a few deranged people who claim to be like the rest of the Muslims, who claim to represent Islam? It's like allowing the KKK to represent Christianity. But you don't see that happening, do you? It's like blaming every citizen of Germany for the actions of Hitler. But you don't see that, do you? It's like blaming all of the people of China for the actions of Mao. But you don't see that. And contrary to popular belief, as I shared with you, we are the biggest victims of terrorism. We are the biggest victims of terrorism that's caused by so-called Muslims. Out of the top 10 countries that are affected by terrorism, 8 of them are countries that are governed by Muslims. And guess what? Now politicians who want a chance at running this country, the United States of America, this same country that was founded on immigration, right? The only native people are the native Indians. Everyone else is an immigrant in this country. Everyone. These same people who want a chance at running this country that was founded on immigration, that was established on the promise of new dreams and new lives, that was established for people who were running away from religious persecution. Now they want to paint all of our brothers and sisters who are fleeing from Syria as potential terrorists, a threat to society. When, my brothers and sisters, the fact of the matter is that they themselves are fleeing from the people who are carrying out these attacks. It is so sad that in such an age of information and technology, that ignorance and stupidity is prevalent and widespread. But brothers and sisters, who will unveil this blindfold? Who will shed light on the darkness of ignorance? How do we combat this ignorance? By educating others. By educating others. By educating them about the true picture of Islam, the true definition of Islam. Islam, which means to willingly and peacefully submit and surrender to the will of God. This is what we need to educate other people. Let's talk about our community. And you know what? For the next few minutes, it may seem like a little rant. But every now and then we need to swallow that pill. Let's think about it, brothers and sisters. We all live here, right? How, as a community, what have we done to build bridges with the people around us? What have we done as a community to clear misconceptions about Islam? What have we done as a community to share the true message of Islam? What have we done as a community to defend the legacy and sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? Tell me about this city. Forget the whole country. What efforts have we made as a community? I'm not talking about a one-man show or just a small group of people, but as a community, what have we done to open the doors of our masjid to the community? Brothers and sisters, how long are we going to go about in our lives, day in and day out, week in and week out, month and year in and year out, just minding our own business and doing our own thing? I have sat down with many people of other faiths. I've had many conversations, and honestly, they don't have a clue about what Islam is. You know, over this past year, we've had over a dozen classes and school field trips at our masjid. We've had over a dozen of high school seniors or university seniors, world religion, kids, young adults taking world religion to come and visit the masjid. And they have no clue. But when they leave, they have a whole different outlook on what Islam is all about. And guess what, brothers and sisters? Most people are very understanding. They have very soft hearts. But who will take out time from their day to explain to them? Let alone taking out time. All of us are affiliated with our jobs and our careers and our schools and our professions. When was the last time we had a talk with our co-workers or our colleagues or our classmates or our class fellows or our friends? We don't need to go all on a preaching spree, but just to have a light conversation about Islam. Brothers and sisters, where is our civil engagement? Where is our social outreach? Where is our presence in society? How have we shown the people of the greater New Orleans area that we are contributing to society? Yes, we have different professions and different businesses, but we are making money from that. We just learn and earn and yearn to expand the worldly luxuries that we have in our life. But there is a deeper problem. Not just is it our responsibility to educate the masses and at least start from our community to educate them about what Islam is all about, but we ourselves need to be true to our own religion. We need to be true Muslims. In the literal sense, we need to submit to the will of Allah. Look at the state of our community when there are so many divides and so many lines and we can't get along with one another. You want to bring someone into this mess? And I can speak for that. Because let alone people from other faiths, our new Muslim brothers and sisters, majority of the time, right? I'm not going to just pass judgment on everyone. But majority of their experiences and their interactions with the born Muslim community has been a negative one. When the fact of the matter is that those who are born with Islam are Muslims by chance. Those who have accepted the fold are Muslims by choice. When we can't furnish a positive experience to new Muslims in our community, what kind of picture do you think we're going to present for those people who want to know what Islam is all about? Think about this for a second. I'm reminding myself. We need to be engaged, no doubt, with rallies, peaceful rallies, and public engagement. But at the same time, we need to work on ourselves. What's the point of joining a rally when everyone participating in the rally is missing Maghrib prayer? Really? There is no doubt that we need to spread information about Islam, pass out copies of the Quran, and brochures about Islam. But that will not bring light to the truth if we are not true ourselves. A lot of times for new Muslims and non-Muslims, okay, if Islam is such a good religion and you can't do this and you can't do that, but I don't have the numbers in front of you, brothers and sisters, but there are a lot of businesses that sell liquor. And they deceive themselves by putting هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي, just as ISIS deceives themselves by putting La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah on their flag. Now tell me, how can I answer this question to someone who asks that, okay, your religion is so beautiful, but why aren't your people practicing it? This is something to think about. We talk about, how the governments are waging war against Islam when we have waged war against Allah and His Prophet by being involved in riba. Tell me, can we defend ourselves against Allah and the Prophet? No. Brothers and sisters, now more than ever, each and every single one of us that is sitting here in this khutbah, young or old, male or female, brother, sister, single or married, parent or child, we have the right to make sure that we are representing Islam and we are representing it correctly. We can say that Muslims are, Muslims are peaceful and we hold hands and sing kumbaya. But do our actions amongst ourselves reflect that? We say we are not terrorists, yet every Friday, our poor neighbors at Masjid Abu Bakr are terrorized by the way we park in the neighborhood. Oh, that's a wonderful picture of Islam, right? And we are living in a country, Thanksgiving is about being thankful, right? We are in a country where we have the freedom to do what is right, where we have the freedom to practice our religion, where we have the freedom and opportunity to portray and present what our religion is. And with all of that, keep in mind that as we sit here, there is a huge wildfire of Islamophobia that is taking all over the world. And we are being pictured as the boogeyman, as the bad guy. Did this catch us by surprise? No. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us 1400 years ago, لَتُبْلَوُنَّ فِي أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَأَنفُسِكُمْ وَلَا تَسْمَعُنَّ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا أَذًى كَثِيرًا. You will be tried and tested in your wealth and your property and in your physical selves. And you will hear many a bad things, many a hurtful things from those people who have been given the book before you and from the pagans. Kathira. You will hear many bad things. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? How does Allah guide us to combat criticism? How does Allah guide us to combat Islamophobia? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَتَّقُوا وَتَصْبِرُوا فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Be conscious of God and be patient. Be strong. For verily, that is from the great merits of determination. So brothers and sisters, as I conclude, let's be true to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's be true to ourselves. And let us follow the sunnah and the legacy of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so we can clear the misconceptions and the misunderstandings that are taking over the whole world like a wildfire. Indeed, our hearts go out to the victims of Paris, but our hearts go out to the victims of oppression in every Muslim and non-Muslim land throughout the whole world. Our hearts go out to humanity. Our hearts go out to humanity. And we are Muslims. We submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And yes, we are not terrorists. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.